All right. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was a little late to click start. We were making sure we had everybody here. It's like waiting for the referees, right? It's always this tough part about game day. We're so excited that you're here. We've got some great guests here tonight. We've got some current PA students. We've got some former PA student athletes. They're going to share some insight that they have into their experience, both while at Andover, and then of course, now that they've transitioned to college life. I'm seeing that there was definitely some technical issues with another link in another email. It's asking for a password. All right, I'm going to troubleshoot from here all, but if you can bear with me 1 second. All right, I think we're getting there. We've got a nice group of people coming in. All right, here we go. Thank you, Coach Wall. Look at that, Coach Wall, our head coach of our girls lacrosse team, sharing the link. Thank you so much for your help. Awesome. Well, as we continue to welcome people into the room, I want to give you just a little bit of an overview of what our game plan, no pun intended, is for tonight. So what we have here are 4 recent alums of PA. They are now competing at the college level in their respective sport. We also have an amazing young senior here, Charlotte Whitehurst, who's going to talk a little bit about her experience as she is a current PA student. At 5:15, I'm going to share a link with you all, and we are going to send you off into your respective sport Zoom rooms. So that link is going to have PDF. It will be a PDF, and there will be hyperlinks to every sport that you may be interested in. And there will be coaches and current student athletes in those Zoom rooms. That's going to last us from about 5:15 to 5:45. And then at 5:45, we ask that you come back to this main Zoom room. So we'll continue to have this conversation going. Okay. So I appreciate everybody being here. And I just want to make sure that as we continue going here, we're going to ask you to populate your questions into the Q&A. We're going to hold off the chat. So we are going to be here together, and we're going to start using that Q&A pretty shortly. So we're going to get going here. I'll quickly introduce myself, but the main players here are the 5 people that you see on your screen, myself excluded. So my name is Jamie Finney, and I work in the admissions office. I am part of Team Schumann, and I'm so proud of that team. It's one of my most favorite teams on campus. Other things that I do on campus, I help run a dorm. I teach EBI. I'm an advisor. I'm the class advisor for the lowers. And I am a field hockey and ice hockey coach. So I'm super excited to spend my afternoons with our student athletes on campus. So I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start just in the top. My top left is Max. So Max, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Max Hunger. I'm a swimmer from Montreal, Canada. I came to PA in 2018 as a new upper or nupper. And I did swimming and water polo during my time at Andover.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Catherine, you're up.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm from Tewksbury, Massachusetts. I came to Andover in 2017 as a freshman, and now I'm at Caltech and I play soccer and basketball.
Awesome, thanks. Noah, you're in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Noah Dinkins. I'm from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I came to PA in 2019 for the 2019-2020 school year as a PG, and I now go to Williams College. And I played basketball when I was there.
Thanks. All right, Joe, you're up.
Hi, I'm Joe Keiko. I started at Andover in 2015. I graduated in 2019, so I was there for all 4 years. I'm from Linfield, Massachusetts. At Andover, I played field hockey and lacrosse, and I did a little track for 2 years, but not in the end. And I go to Bowdoin College now, and I play lacrosse.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. All right, Shar.
Hey, hi, I'm Charlotte, and I'm a current senior at Andover. I started as a 9th grader, and I've made it through the 4 years, so that's pretty exciting. I started off playing JV2 soccer. I played JV lacrosse, JV soccer, and found my way to track and field and cross country.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're going to ask you to go a little bit further, Shar, into that. I participate in cross country and track. So I want to start with Noah. And I know that you had a particular experience here as a PG, a postgraduate. Do you have a couple favorite memories from your PG year that you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like my PG year was cut short by COVID. So I only got 2 of the terms to be on campus, which kind of sucked because I was super excited for the spring. Kind of getting able to hang out with a lot of my like fall sport athlete friends that we had both been in season at some point throughout our whole time there. But anyway, I think like some of my favorite memories are like pretty simple, honestly. Every Tuesday night we would have like PG dinners from like the moment we got on campus all the way through like through the sports seasons or not, even though it got kind of hard because people had kind of commitments in the evening. But we would just get together and our like advisors, I guess, would order us pizza or like other types of food, and it was also just like a nice little refresher from dining hall food, I guess. And we just like play games and talk about our weeks and how life was going, and especially early on, we talk about kind of adjusting to life at Andover and kind of this like weird position of being a PG, as I'm sure a lot of you know. We were new students, but we were kind of like some older kids, so we had to kind of adjust to people looking up to us in a weird way, but not knowing us yet. So kind of carrying that responsibility, but also, kind of exploring kind of our prior interests, but also, things that we, could get into that we never had the chance to with all the opportunities that Andover provides. I think another thing was just like school activities, like lots of sports games and other like random like club meetings and different activities. Like I remember there was a casino night that was super fun. So just like super like kind of random things like that you don't get that anywhere else. So just being around the community, that was like super fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah. Joe, you obviously did a handful of sports, but I know you were also involved in other things on campus, other activities, clubs. How did you find that balance, and did you make time for it? Was the time built into your day? And what are some things that you took from all of those experiences?
Yeah, so I don't think I started getting into clubs and other activities until I'd say my lower upper year. I think I was more just trying to diving into, Andover is very different from when I went to middle school and everything. So I think I was just trying to find friends, go get really into sports and everything. But I think by the time I was a lower upper, I joined a few clubs. I ended up being on co-president of the Students in Medicine Club, and I was also on the board of Active Minds, which is spreading awareness for mental health and whatnot. And I was also a Blue Key head my senior year. For those who don't know what a Blue Key head is, it's 5 gals and 5 guys who are seniors. You have to try out for it. They're basically spirit leaders in a sense, I would say. They're just kind of, how do you describe Blue Key heads? Like sometimes I find myself like when I'm explaining it in like now in college, I just don't even know how to explain it. They're basically spirit leaders. We help out with admission stuff, orientation, games. We would stand on the sideline for football games and cross games, all types, and just bring energy to the school overall, really. But yeah, I think balancing everything, really prepared me for college, for sports and everything, because it's, I don't know, it's a tough at first, but I think just I don't know, I would come up with the schedule exactly. It's really good at Andover how exactly everyone has practices at the same time every day, and then after practices like 5 to later, we have dinner 5 to 7. How long is Commons open? Yeah, like 5 to 7. And then usually club meetings and whatnot are built in sometime after. And I think having that structure was really nice, because in the future in college now I would always take advantage of those, between meals after practice and stuff like that. What were the other questions there?
No, I think that's awesome, Joe. I think just that idea that you had to find your way as you got to Andover. It wasn't like you had it figured out right away. Like you needed to find your people, find your rhythm, and then you understood that you could kind of add on. And then as you did, you started to really involve yourself into things that were important to you. It wasn't just like doing things to do things. And now it's helping you schedule your time in college, especially as a student athlete, where your time is so precious. So that was awesome. You nailed it. Thank you. All right. So Catherine, how did your coaches help with the college recruiting process? Because you're at Caltech and you're all the way across the country. How did your coaches help? What was your process like? Just kind of in a sort of little window.
Yeah, so my coaches basically helped with like anything that I wanted them to help with. They answered all my questions about like the recruiting process in general, like how to talk to coaches, what coaches look for. And they also gave me just like general advice. And then they also like let me give their contact information to any of the coaches I was talking to and the colleges I was looking at. And they already knew some of the coaches a little bit, so they'd be able to like chat with them. And even the coaches they didn't know, they were like more than willing to reach out to them and talk to them too. I know that my basketball coach talked to the coach that I play for now a couple times for me, so that was really nice. Yeah, they basically help with like anything and everything.
Awesome, thank you. And Max, for your sort of 2 years, any big swimming moments that stick out to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of cheat here just because I've got a couple favorites. So in my 2 years of swimming at Andover, I had the fortune of being able to be present for the 100-year anniversary of the Andover-Exeter rivalry for in swimming at least. And so that was a wonderful time just to be able to have not only a really intense competition at home, but also just to be able to meet and connect with so many alumni from just throughout the years who've all gone different paths in their lives, and just being able to catch up with them and have them cheer us on in our race was really fun. But to kind of give a top three, I'd say the other two on my list would definitely have to be our conference championship, the New England Championships. That was super fun. The energy there, just being able to kind of take a break from the Andover academics and just really focus on winning, enjoying being around your teammates. And in my 2 years, I was very, very fortunate to just see both when I was an upper, see my senior class go for a four-peat and winning the New England Championship every single year that they were there. And when I was a senior, seeing my classmates also do the same feat was a really, really, really enjoyable thing. And last but definitely not least, we were able to travel. It was like, I think it's like an 8-hour bus ride to the Eastern Championship, which for those that don't know is just one of the bigger swimming championships for private schools in the United States, and really just get to show off all the hard work that we put into swimming throughout the year. And fortunately enough, my first year, so my upper year, we won the championship for the first time in in school history. It was the first New England school to ever win that championship. So that was just an exhilarating moment. It was really fun just to see all that hard work come to fruition. And then that second year, being able to go back as a senior and just defend that same title was just a wonderful moment. One of my highlights just all time in all my 9 years of swimming.
Of course, that was me, the muted talking. Charlotte, can you tell us, before we send everybody off into their specific Zoom rooms for their sports, just how you said you started out playing soccer and then you tried a different sport and then you found incredible success. Charlotte is a big deal in our cross country and track program, everybody, but she's the most humble kid, so she'll never tell you that. But Char, can you tell us a little bit about sort of starting out and then how you that ball just started rolling, and what was it that helped?
I would just say that Andover is a place where you can try new things. You come in with a lot of experience in certain areas, whether that's academic success or athletic success. A lot of the kids here are really, really talented. But that said, there are so many opportunities here. I think I arrived here and I could not decide what I wanted to do first. There's just so many cool avenues to pursue. And I think I was really supported in all of that. The school as a whole, I think, has such patience and such kindness, especially towards its younger students. I was absolutely clueless trying a new sport. I like didn't know what to do, where to stand, like what was happening. I was out there in the wrong shoes, like wrong clothes, and like no one thought less of me for it. They are so patient and so generous with their time to help me just get started. Everyone here like has limitless potential, and I think people recognize that. They're so willing to support you. They're so willing just to see where you can go. And they're so, the students, the captains, the upperclassmen, your classmates, the coaches, the teachers, whether they're involved with sports or not, they're so committed to the Andover teams, and they're so committed to you as a player on them. Whether it's like my math teacher coming to a race just because she wants to see me run, or cheering, or like I remember like coaches who I've had in years past coming to see my new sport. I think that's just a testament to how connected the Andover community is, and how willing they are to support you in whatever you want to do. And that's really, really exciting and really, really cool when you get here to realize that you can do anything. It's not just like something they tell you when you apply, but it's like an actual reality.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. All right. So we're going to take a time out here, and I am going to share in the chat the link. So if you click on that, everybody, that's going to bring you to a PDF that's loaded in a link that's going to give you all the individual Zoom rooms. So jump in there, jump around, feel free to go to several, and then around 5:45, come back. You can also come back at any point. If you want to stay here, that's awesome. But we're going to be here, and we'll see you back at 5:45, if not sooner. All right. Looks like everyone's clicking out, clicking in. All right. I'm going to start the crew one on my phone. I'm going to mute myself for 1 second. Okay, here we go. I'll let these guys. Okay, you guys hold on 1 sec. I'll be right back. Awesome. All right. So Charlotte had to duck out to her cross country and track. So this is us. It looks like we've got some people hanging out with us, which is awesome. So I'm actually going to pitch some of the questions that I have here in the, oh, we're good. Oh, we lost Joe. Hope she comes back. Looks like I need to send the links. So let's talk a little bit about what it feels like to, so let's go with Noah, right? So Noah, you did not have a fall sport. So what was that like for you when you guys were trying to train, but what else did you do in the fall? Because we all have to do a sport in the fall. So what did your fall look like?
Yeah, so in the fall, I did yoga actually, which is pretty cool. Honestly, I thought it was at first I was just like I have to do something, and like this is probably gonna like be the least time demanding and whatnot. But it actually was really cool. I think that like I felt the best like my body's ever felt when I was after like 2 weeks of doing yoga and doing it like 3 times a week for an hour. So like I've definitely tried to kind of off and on keep up like some of that stuff, which is just crazy to think that how long term that's affected me. But yeah, so I mean it was what, like an hour a day for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes our teacher would like let us out early and whatnot, because a lot of the kids in there like had a main sport, and you could just kind of need something to fill the time since you have to do a sport for all three terms. So I had so much time to get in the gym, and whether it was like shooting or like just kind of doing skill work, or playing pickup with the team, or like lifting. So I had ample time to do what I really wanted to do, but also do this thing that I had never really done before, and also somehow really helped me. So I thought that was like, it was really cool, even though it kind of happened by accident, I feel like. But yeah, that's what I do with my fall.
That's awesome. How about you guys? Catherine, I know you had soccer. So talk to us about preseason and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so preseason started like a week before classes started, and we had like twice a day trainings. But even before that, we went in August like up to Maine as a team, and it was for anyone who wanted to try out for the team. And we stayed up there for 5 days and did like essentially a soccer camp. And you played soccer 3 sessions a day, a couple hours per session, and then the rest of the time you just hung out with the team. So even though like preseason and like the soccer camp was a lot of soccer and a lot of training, there was like a bunch of free time to just hang out with the team and get to know everyone. So it was really nice to even just get to campus, especially freshman year, before everyone else, and get to know like upperclassmen on the team, other freshmen, just get to know other people, get to know the coaches, be on campus a little bit sooner. So it was a really fun time, even if it was really tiring, but yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Max, how about your transition when you came in as a new upper? If we have any new uppers on this, or just new students in general. I mean, I know, Noah, you came in and you had your PG cohort, and so that was its own little transition because you all were new. Max, you came in and you were in a smaller group, and that train is already moving really fast. So what did that feel like, and what did the school have for you to kind of help with that transition?
Well, I'd say let's go with the academic side of things. One of the really cool things that the school has, at least particularly for the new uppers or nuppers, is this new upper English class that all the nuppers have to take together. And initially, that's actually where my closest group of friends were. It was really fun to be able to just have a ton of people who were in the same situation as you and who you could relate to. And not only that, but it was a very, very international group. So it's just super interesting to have, dinner table conversations with them and just chat with them and figure out a ton of, just weird quirks about the world. But another thing that really helped me settle in was just sports teams as a whole. So for me, I came in as a, pure swimmer, and seeing that I had to pick 2 other sports, or at least do another sport in the fall term, I decided to do water polo. And for me, that was just one of the greatest discoveries of my life. I still have, even though I don't necessarily do that now in university, is one of the greatest experiences just to meet a ton of, new guys who are willing to teach me a new sport, and just also be able to get there early on campus and have, a group of guys who are just fun, enjoyable to be around, and just who made you feel at home, especially, coming in where you're like in this midway point where people kind of know each other, but you're also, expected to be there for another 2 years, and just how accepting that initial, water polo team was. And I'd say it goes from, for most sports, that just people are very accepting and very kind and open. And that's, that group right there was the people you hang around with the majority of the time at the beginning of the year. And then you just slowly get to know more people. And it was just a wonderful time.
Awesome. Thanks. And Catherine, you started out here fresh. You're also a day student, so you've got that awesome perspective. Can you tell us a little bit about the balance when the majority of your peers are boarders? And so how did you do the going home, they were staying, but you also had the luxury of going to your own home. But how did you also balance that with your outside sports too?
Yeah, so I played club soccer and AU basketball outside of school, especially in the spring. I did both of those. And I did like being a day student. I thought it was like the better of both worlds because I could stay on campus as late as I wanted to. You know, people would be like up in the Science Study Center, Math Study Center, wherever, and I could just be with them, or I could be with them in their dorm rooms. And then I could leave to go home. Some nights I basically just like slept at home and did all my work on campus. Other nights I was just like kind of tired and I wanted to go home and see my family. And I was able to do that too. What else? On top of like club sports, that was mostly just balancing time. Yeah, I did miss out on some stuff on campus for practices, but like I was willing to do that. And like being a day student let me do that more easily because my parents could come. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I've got a great question here in the Q&A about whether you ever felt like you had to choose between a course and a sport. So did your courses conflict? And I can give you the quick answer, which is no, but maybe you guys could talk a little bit about the class day and how it goes and what your class day is like, and then where your sports fall in line. And then how did you just balance taking your classes and going to sports? And then all those things actually are perhaps a different topic, how to balance the demands of both, but the timing, maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that, and we'll just popcorn out whoever wants to jump in first.
I could start. Honestly, in terms of balancing sports and academics, the schedule really, accommodates you there. And normally you'd wake up. I don't think there's any, teams that have mandatory morning practices. So you can wake up, go have your breakfast, and then from there on, you go into your classes. Whatever your course load is, you'll complete that. And then once the school day finishes, there's this kind of window of time where most sporting practices are held, and you'll go and attend practice. And then once you finish practice, you'll be able to, like, for example, for me, I'd go straight from school into my practice into dinner. And then from there, you could just go and however you'd like, spend the rest of your day. If you had homework, I would go to the library, do my work there. If I was a little bit tired, I could go back to my own dorm, rest. Or if you just wanted to be social, you can go to the den and just chat with a ton of people. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility with what you wanted to do. And I never really felt pressure. I never felt that, doing sports would necessarily, hinder my academics. Some days I'd say maybe going on a travel day for a competition. Some people would do homework on the bus ride there, or try to get some work done as we traveled. But even if you didn't do that, you could still easily manage your time around that. If you planned just accordingly, did your work, on a Friday night, or if you did it on a Sunday instead, there was never really that much of a challenge where you have to pick one over the other.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the balance of how about the demands of both? Max, you were saying sometimes you take your books on the bus, sometimes you take your books and they stay in your backpack, but it made you feel really good because you brought them other than leaving them in your room. Some of those farther away games, how did we balance the coming home a little bit later and knowing that you had to really compartmentalize, getting back from your competition and then getting right back to the book? So Catherine, I know you had a little bit transition there because you were at home, but how did that feel for you?
I mean, it did take a little bit of an adjustment, but like even just being on the bus with upperclassmen, if you were doing your work, you could easily ask like them for help. Like they had taken a lot of the classes that you had taken before too, so they could help you, keep you on track. And even like if you didn't end up doing work on the bus, you knew beforehand that you were going to have a long bus ride, so you could kind of like prepare before and like plan out your day around that. So it was never like too much of a time constraint to get your work done.
Awesome. No, are you good?
Yeah, I mean, I could just kind of second or third that, I guess. I definitely think that like there was never really any problems. As long as you kind of like plan out your schedule well. I think like at least for basketball, I'm not sure how it went for other sports, but we played like pretty much all on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So Saturdays like that, that was never a problem because even if it was a road game, like you had Sunday to do work, or you could do it Friday because you're probably not doing much on Friday night if you have a game the next day. And then like for Wednesdays, some of the long Wednesday road trips were definitely definitely made you had to kind of schedule things around that. Like do some extra work Tuesday for like classes Thursday, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times, like I feel like the time commitment is a bit underwhelming. Like I think that like you especially when you're in season, especially like at least me personally, like I do work way better when I'm in season just because my schedule is a lot more regimented, and I don't have time for like other distractions. So I feel like I'm way more proactive about like doing work early instead of just on time, and then also not having those distractions outside of academics and basketball when those deadlines come.
Awesome. Thank you. There was a question in here about, could you play 2 sports at the same time? And I'm actually going to take that one. And the answer is no. That's because we are trying to just maintain that, one sport is enough, one commitment is enough. So yes, for our West Coast friends, when you are having some of what we say, like tennis, I know out there is played in the fall. And so we play our tennis in the spring. And so you would have to choose. And that is not an Andover thing. That's a New England boarding school thing where tennis is in the spring, soccer is in the fall. I know some schools have, some parts of our world, parts of this country specifically, have soccer in the spring, but we have soccer in the fall for both our girls and boys teams. So you would have to choose. Now, it doesn't say that you can do one year, and then your next year you could try another one. If you're feeling like, you know what, I want to go back to this sport, you can also try it for a couple days, and then you can say, no, I want to go try this other sport. So just like our classes, where we have a 2-week add drop period at the start of every term for your classes, where you can start in a class and feel like, ooh, this might be a little bit too fast, or this isn't fast enough and I want to go up or down a level. That's similar to the first couple weeks, first couple days of sports, not necessarily for our varsity level, but for the junior varsity level and the JV2 sports, where you could try one and say, oh, I'm not really feeling this, and then go try something else. So that certainly is the case for that. There's also a question about tryouts. So how do I try out? So fall sports is a little bit different in that you will indicate as you are coming to Andover, you get into Andover, you say yes to Andover. We send you a series of links, and we asking you for specific questions. So our coaches are going to gather the information from that as to whether, as a new student, you'll be invited back for the preseason, which would be theoretically the tryout for that specific fall sport. And if you aren't invited back, it doesn't mean that you're not going to make varsity. It just means when you get back to campus, you are going to be with those kids that are going to start on the JV team. And then depending on how that goes, there might be some wiggle room there. But that's a lot of conversation between the coach and you, and likely myself, as I am the point person for all of our varsity coaches and our students. So I am what we call in our office the athletic liaison. So if you have any questions about anything related to all the sports, your specific sport, you're curious about it, you can direct it at me, and then I can sort of farm that out to our respective coaches at all levels. And then for our winter and for our spring sports, there is a preseason. It's a whole lot shorter. So things get started and they just go really fast. But there will be an introductory meeting sort of halfway through that season leading into it. So for our winter sports, for Noah, his group would have sort of like a welcome meeting about halfway through the fall. And that would be here's our plan. Here are our practice times right now for just open gym. So the guys can go in and shoot around and play, but it's not tryouts. The tryouts will begin the week after our final fall weekend, which culminates with Andover Exeter. So the week after Andover Exeter is the week that right before the Thanksgiving break. And that's when winter sports have tryouts. And then spring sports is similar. Some of our spring sports go on spring trips and some don't. And so they would use the little window right before spring break, perhaps the spring trip, and then the first couple days coming back from spring break. So that was some sort of logistical administration talk. But let's see, a couple more questions. talked about tryouts. So we also haven't really talked about it. And we may talk about this when everybody comes back, but you're gonna get hurt. We hope you don't get hurt. We hope you don't get injured, but that's sport, right? You're putting yourself out there. You're more than likely to, whether it's a sprained ankle or a broken bone or a torn ligament or a strain, and you're out for just a day. But can you guys talk a little bit about the athletic training rooms, because there's multiple on campus, and our athletic trainers and how they help you and what's provided on campus? And if you have any specific stories, you can talk about that, and then I can sort of fill in from sort of a bigger perspective. So if anybody had any sort of interactions, short-term, long-term, with our athletic training staff, maybe you want to share that?
I can definitely start with this one.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Andover athletic training team and facilities. So I came into Andover with like a pre-existing ankle injury. And like one of my first days, I got like, I asked one of my teammates, you know, like, how's the athletic training staff here? And they were like, oh, like they're super good. Like, just go ask them, you know, to help you with whatever you need. So I went to see Amy Wiggins, who is like one of the head athletic trainers, along with Mr. O'Reilly. And I asked them, just like, I told him like what had happened and what I'd been dealing with for the past, like, I think it was like been like a year and a half at that point. And, you know, they decided, like, you know, I could come in as often as I wanted to and do some kind of rehab slash prehab for my injury, and kind of, you know, help me get back to where I wanted to be before the season started. So all fall, along with yoga and all my workouts, I would go to the athletic training staff, and, you know, and they'd give me, you know, different exercises to do. And it actually really helped me, I think. You know, I think even like, you know, today I know like kind of what to do when, you know, like my ankle or whatever it is starts kind of acting up, and how to go about like kind of fixing that. And then, like, you know, as we got into the season, you know, they taped my ankles every day, and they would always ask me, you know, how I was doing, and, you know, like how I felt physically. And then Mr. O'Reilly would even like open up the training room all the way in Snyder. So we practiced in like the main gym, but we'd walk all the way to Snyder, hop in like the huge cold tub, you know, to do some recovery. So just like, you know, they're super kind. He would, you know, walk us over there, you know, 3 times out of the week in the season. And, you know, obviously, like when he's off the clock, he doesn't have to be doing that for us. So I think that's like just speaks to, you know, how much they care for us as athletes, but also just as individuals. And they really like got to know us. And yeah, it was a super cool experience. I still talk to Amy and Mr. Riley still, so it's super cool.
Awesome. All right, good. Then that means Catherine and Max, you guys sort of stayed somewhat healthy, which is awesome. Cool. We have a great question here in the Q&A. Can you play different sports in fall, winter, and spring? Water polo in the fall, swimming in the winter, and baseball in the spring. So there's a short answer and there's a long answer, but as Max alluded to, Catherine and Noah didn't get the chance to finish that out, but can you guys talk a little bit about perhaps playing different sports in every season, even though Max, you were in the pool a lot, but it was a different sport?
I guess I can start with this one. Yeah, trying different sports, there's no real difficulty. I guess for me, it was just you signed up for fall sport. I would play water polo. There'd be a preseason. You'd go through you'd play that as a whole. Now, personally, being a swimmer, there's kind of a reason why I did water polo, but I mean, I could have picked any other sport. There was no real pressure for me to take water polo, but yeah, you can finish out water polo, and then once that season finishes and we had our conference championships, you know, I'd come back, and then for a winter term, I'd choose swimming, and we'd have our tryouts, we'd have our season start, and there's kind of a seamless transition that would go from sport to sport. And I know mine was a lot of it in the pool, but I know plenty of people who'd go from cross country to swimming, or from, right, a lot of mine's going to be swimming centric, but people would definitely go from different environments and not necessarily have any difficulty transitioning from one sport to another. So yeah, there's definitely, you know, I highly encourage at least to the people in attendance to try different sports. And yeah, I mean, I personally found a passion in a sport I never thought I would have a chance of trying. And, you know, nowadays I absolutely love it, and still keep in touch with our coaches. And yeah, just I loved it. I loved it. So highly recommend it. And yeah, no problem at all trying multiple sports.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's great. It looks like we're getting some people back from their specific Zoom rooms. So if you all are coming back in from the respective sport Zoom rooms, feel free to, if there were questions that weren't asked that you still want asked, or things that have started to percolate that you want to see some reflection or get some reflection from these guys that have gone through Andover and that are now doing their amazing sport in college. So feel free to use that Q&A. We're going to continue to fire questions off at these guys. So as far as the recruiting process for you three specifically, can you talk a little bit about what was that like and how that worked? Yes, like as PA, we want to say that we help you, but you guys are the reason that you're playing college athletics. So without you, there's no college athletics. So sure, do we think we did a good job? Yeah, we did, but you're the ones that made it happen. So talk a little bit about sort of that transition year, the recruiting process for you. What did that look like? And then what did those first few weeks and months feel like? And maybe do a little bit of reflection of like, gosh, Andover really did help me with this. Or maybe they didn't. I don't want to pump us up more than we need to be, but talk a little bit about maybe the process and then that first little bit of transition.
I can talk about my process. So my process was like half during COVID. So it started out and I was going to a lot of ID camps, emailing a lot of coaches, calling a lot of coaches, just kind of like feeling out each school and each program. And then during COVID, obviously I couldn't go to any of the ID camps or anything. So that was just a lot of talking with coaches, sending videos. Like my coaches from Andover also talked with the coaches, and I think that helped a lot, kind of getting like a high school coach's perspective on a player and like something that's not coming from the player themselves.
I guess I can add a little bit of my experience. For me, swimming's a little bit different. You can just send your times, and a lot of coaches can look at that and make a snap judgment. But one of the things that really helped me at least was my coach, Coach Fox. He sent us this huge spreadsheet he had accumulated over the years with the different contact info of, I mean, easily, close to 100 different schools, and you could just look at different emails, phone numbers, just get in touch with these different coaches. And I mean, one of the things at least I'm most grateful for was after all these emails and calls, and when I was narrowing it down to a couple schools, Coach Fox actually took 2 hours or an hour or two out of his day to call the Princeton coach to just pretty much hype me up at least, or at least push him over the edge to make that final decision. And now that I'm here and I'm able to talk to my coach, he's told me that it was really heartwarming to have that much support from a coach. So at least that's one thing that Andover's done really well for me, at least in terms of coaching that's available. It's just it's crazy the support that you can get from the staff. And I guess to touch on that last point with the transition, I really I think just for me as a boarder, living away from home, there's that really big advantage just coming into college and not really having to worry too much about what I do to manage my time, or doing my laundry on my own, or when do I go eat, how do I do my work. I mean, there's a lot of these small, very simple questions that don't really seem too bad at the time, but that kind of add up after a while. And being able to just kind of be comfortable with that off the on the get-go, it really just gives you the just a slight comfort advantage. You're less stressful, you're less stressed in what is a very stressful environment. You're changing academic scenes, and you're going into college for the next 4 years. So I think that very much was an advantage I got from my 2 years at Andover. Sorry.
Yeah. Just to go off of that, my recruiting process was definitely interesting. I think like in basketball, you mostly get recruited from like your travel teams, and not as much your school team. But then as a PG at Andover, like you definitely, your coaches definitely help you out. I know TI definitely helped me like with recruiting and talking to some coaches for me, and getting coaches in the gym to watch us play. And ultimately, I ended up here at Williams. So I definitely think that I made the most of it, which was super awesome. Yeah, I think as far as like another thing that Andover did for me, like definitely, as Max said, was prepare me for like academic life, social life, everything here to, kind of make the transition seamless. I've definitely had a weird start to college with my last basketball season getting canceled because of COVID and not being on campus for my freshman year kind of. And but having that kind of foundation that Andover allowed me to build was super helpful, kind of coming onto campus for the first time as like not a true first year student. So learning how to, again, like not be a newcomer without really being a newcomer is definitely like, my time at Andover definitely helped me adjust accordingly. So I'm really thankful for that.
Awesome. Well, Charlotte and Joe, we are just getting back into the sort of broader picture of the experience at Andover, your process, and Charlotte, you're in it. But Joe, maybe you could just talk a little bit about what that transition was like. Yes, how did PA help, but more like, what were some of your go-to things that you felt like, gosh, this is really helpful for me as I transition to a new place, new people, new classrooms, new sports, new everything? Like, what were some of the things the skills that you had honed over the 4 years? And you don't need to give the credit to PA, you did it. So what are some of those things that you felt like really helped you transition to college? And as Noah and Max were saying, just the demands of everything.
Time management, for sure. I'm still working on it, definitely. But I think time management is a huge one. Just even academics alone, and then you throw in sports as well. Just learning how to distribute your time and prioritize. And also just remembering that like we're all humans. Like not only do you need to prioritize your academics and your sports, but like at the end of the day, like it's stressful, when you go to a good school, you play on a good sports team, it's hard to remember that you also got to prioritize yourself. So I think that was a huge one as well. Getting to Bowdoin, I think a lot of my teammates, a lot of my classmates had a hard time balancing everything, taking advantage of those small moments, maybe in the morning, maybe right after lift, you have a awkward 40 minutes between classes, and that doesn't seem like enough time to be able to do this or that. But if you make a little schedule and you're like, hey, I'm going to read 10 pages, or I'm going to go play wall ball that I wasn't able to do whatever time. Just those little things, being able to, it makes everything so much easier when you make sure you're not as stressed out. And when I first got to school, it was kind of funny. All my friends were like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I have this, and that. And like, how do you, they're like, Joe, are you bored? I'm like, no, I'm not bored. I just did everything. You just like, I don't know. So I think that was really helpful when I first got to school. I just felt a lot more relaxed. I had all my stuff together. And I definitely credit that to Andover. I was a lot more prepared than a lot of other people.
Shar, what do you feel like has helped you over these 4 years as you have sort of found your way in specific sports, but just as far as Joe was talking about, managing everything, because you're living it right now, and you're also coming off of a unique year for everybody, but that you have this time to have a normal Andover before you head out. But what have you learned about yourself that's helped you both in your sport, but also just in managing everything and doing all these things that these guys have just talked about? Because you're living it. That's awesome.
I would say that my teammates are really my biggest allies in terms of just time management and getting everything done, both in terms of athletics, but also academics. I would say the kids on my team really kind of understand what it takes and what you need to get done and why. I have a friend on my team, and she lives down the road, and sometimes we're not getting a lot of work done, like in commons, the dining hall or whatever. So we'll just walk down the street and go to her house, and we'll sit down and we say, we're going to study each other. We're going to study together. Like if we see each other on our phones, like we're going to take the phone out of our hand, like we're going to sit down and really make sure we get this done. So I think being accountable within the team, kids on your teams really understand, we've got like a 5-hour meet on Saturday. Like we have to get this done. Like you've got to get 8 hours of sleep, get 8 hours of sleep tonight. Like the meet's tomorrow. Like we've got to get this done. they really hold you accountable, and they really, having someone else doing the work with you and trying to squeeze everything in is super helpful for me, at least. So learning to rely on my teammates and being stronger because they're there as well has been such a learning experience for me.
That's awesome. Thank you. So there was a question that we asked in the window in between, but I'm going to come back to that and just see if Charlotte or Joe have anything to add on to the use of our athletic training department and the trainers and the athletic training rooms, because there's multiple and they have different things in them that helps you sort of prehab, post recovery, getting back on the field, whether it's major injury or something a little bit more minor. So if you guys have anything that you want to sort of chime in, Noah had a pretty extensive experience there, which was awesome, and it helped him tremendously, but didn't know if you had anything to include about sort of the relationship and experience with the athletic training department.
Yeah, I can go. Actually, one of the trainers, one of the athletic trainers, Devin O'Reilly, I met him my senior year. That was his first year. Yeah, I think that was his first year here. And he started over quarantine this program. It's like a training program, and it incorporates mental strength. And if you believe in certain faiths, he incorporates that, and it's like an overall just like a whole training thing. But I still work with him now. I graduated in 2019. Over the summer, he trains me, recondition, agility, speed, everything. And I credit a lot of my athletic success right now to him. And so that's pretty cool. Like we just so happened to overlap my senior year, and now he's my trainer, and I'm doing pretty well here at college on the lacrosse team because of that. And before he got there, I developed great relationships with those trainers. I I was never actually hurt. I was just always in there. And they would be like, Joe, like, are you even hurt? I'm like, no. I would go there before practice. I'd heat up. I'd make sure I'd stretch, and even those like little habits, even though I wasn't hurt, I just made sure I'd prep myself accordingly. And when I got to college, a lot of my teammates they didn't know to take advantage of the training room. You don't need to be hurt to be there. You can go roll out, use the cold tubs, do whatever, making sure you're all fit to go for practice. And I think that was something that nobody else in my grade knew about, that you should take advantage of the trainers. You don't need to be hurt to go. So that was just a little thing. And yeah, and Coach O'Reilly, and yeah, I think that's my athletic trainer experience.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was a great story. So we're going to do here just in the last couple minutes, just a little like speed round. So I'll ask you all to chime in on these questions. The first one is just the first word that comes to your mouth. Okay. So ready, get prepped, get psyched. Max, I'm going to start with you. Andover is.
I just say awesome. I love it.
Awesome. Catherine, Andover is.
Home.
Nice. Noah.
Welcoming.
Joe.
Diverse.
Char.
Family.
Awesome. All right. For my 4 alums, what do you miss most about Andover? We'll start with we'll go with Catherine.
Definitely my teams. They were a big part of my experience there. I miss them a lot.
That's awesome. Noah.
I think like my fellow PGs, surrounding community, my teammates, just like people in general, honestly, faculty, everybody.
Awesome. Max.
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo what was already said. I mean, the people there are just amazing, and I kind of just miss being able to see them every single day.
Awesome. And Joe.
My friends and the omelets in the morning.
Yes.
Crepes.
Such good omelet.
And the Wednesday grapes.
That's like that's a little inner secret. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So last question is this, and Charlotte, you're in it, but you can also reflect on being a prospective student to Andover. So if you guys could turn the clocks way back and think about what it felt like when you were going through the process of looking at schools, and you were looking at schools for a lot of different reasons, and what were you, what you were looking for different things. You all were, because you're very different and unique, amazing humans. But as you thought about it, and then you had the choice, what was it on the outset before you got here that you felt like, that's my place? What kind of stuck out to you as you were either going through the process or when you started to be able to have that choice? What was it that you felt like really connected to you and the school and said, yeah, that's for me? And we'll start with who, you guys, you just decide who feels ready.
I can start.
Yes, Noah.
I think like, so when I was looking at prep schools, all the ones I was looking at, had competitive athletics and specifically basketball, rigorous academics, like all the things that you kind of like are on the list, as you go down, choosing the place I was going to spend my time the next year. But I think like one thing that stuck out to me, again, this is just like kind of about Andover's community and inclusivity and whatnot. But I remember like on my visit, the night before kind of like the real visit happened, there was some like talent show in like the little auditorium, and me and my mom walked in there and like kind of just sat down and like we're kind of confused about what was going on. And then like, people came in and were like doing these like really crazy, really cool different talents, whether it was like music or there were just so many random things. I can't even really remember what was happening, but and like there were so many students there, like there to support their friends and also just support, their fellow classmates. And there was just so much support, for everyone's like kind of individual talent. And I remember like watching a same like group of 5 people just like stand up and clap so loud and make so much noise for like every group. I was like, there's just no way they know all of these kids. So like, I think just like the overwhelming support and, kind of sense of community that was like super cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Some of those crazy people standing up were our blue key heads, right, Joe? Awesome. Anybody else want to jump in?
I can go.
Awesome.
I had no idea that I was going to go to a prep school or a private school. I had absolutely no idea. My cousins lived in Andover, and I would drive by PA all the time, and I thought it was a college. All throughout middle school, I literally thought it was a college. And I think sometime during 8th grade, my best friend and also a good friend of mine still, Jackie McCarthy, she plays field hockey at Tufts. I saw her last week because she was actually at my school playing against our team. We won. But anyway, her older sister, Kelly, graduated from Andover in 2016. And Jackie and I were inseparable in middle school. And I actually went to Andover. I remember in the spring or winter for the first time, we went to a field hockey game. And I was like, what is this place? It is massive. This turf field is massive. And it was a night game. So it was under the lights and it was just like magical. It was like, I actually didn't remember this memory until you asked this question. And I just remember at halftime, we had this like little chant. When I say we, I meant the team, but like I wasn't on the team yet. And I was like, this is so cool. And then after that, I ended up applying, and Andover was the only place that I applied to. And yeah, I was just like, they like school and they like sports, and I want to be on that field next year. So yeah, that's my whole story.
Love it. Thank you. Do you guys have anything? Don't feel pressure if this is like feeling like a weird question. Awesome. Well, you guys, this has been so helpful. I always just love sitting here and listening to you because it just reaffirms every day that I love this place. I love raising my family here, and I love that they get to be around you. It's amazing when you can find a community where you will let your children just go into the hallway and be raised by some other high school kids. And you are just truly remarkable humans. And I hope that your paths continue to be bright and wonderful, and know that you always have a home here and always come back to see us. And Charlotte, I think I'm just going to lock every door so you can't leave, because that's going to be a sad day for Mrs. Finney. But I appreciate everybody being here. We recorded the whole thing, but we're going to post the first 15 and the last 15 to our YouTube in a couple days. So if anybody needs that or wants to share it, feel free to take a look. But again, thank you all. Always feel free to reach out to the admissions office if you have any further questions. If you haven't scheduled your interview yet, reach out to admissions@andover.edu with any questions and we'll help you. All right. Have a great rest of your night. You 5, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.